So now, instead of striking with lightning, let's try building something with a drone. So I'll make a new drone, just like usual. I'll assign it to a variable. I usually call my drone D, so let's call it D. And I'll get rid of these lightning strikes. And instead, let's place a block. So drone D places block of type. Let's just pick bedrock for now. And I can copy that into these other two. And let's change the sequencing timing so that there's only 1/10 of a second between each function being run. Now, this is not going to look like an animation because nothing changes between these things. It's going to make a block of bedrock and then make another block of bedrock in the same place and make another block of bedrock in the same place. You won't actually be able to tell that anything happened. So we probably don't want to use bedrock here. Let's actually make a function that returns a block. Eventually it'll be at random, so I'll call it rand block. But for the time being, I'll make it return bedrock. So I'll use rand block in each of these places. Now, of course, this still has the same problem, is that it's going to make rand block each time, and rand block is always bedrock. But that's okay. We can now import random. It's called stephen-randomness, and you're welcome to use this in your projects, of course. Randomness. That's what it's called. stephen-randomness. I like to put my imports up here at the top so that the first thing anyone sees when they come to this mod is what other mods they're using in order to build this mod. So now we have randomness imported. Let's change random block so it actually returns us a random block. We're going to use the rand from list block. And our list is going to have, certainly bedrock will be in it. And we'll take that list and we'll assign it to a variable. Call that variable materials. And what else should we use? We don't want just bedrock. We want maybe, I always like using glowstone. It's one of my favorites. So let me find some glowstone. So glowstone. And actually, let me use bedrock twice. 2 bedrocks and 1 glowstone. And this is, if we pick at random from this list, that means 1/3 of the time it will be glowstone, and then 2/3 of the time it will be bedrock. And then we'll pick at random from the list called materials. So there we go. So now we have a cool function that 1/3 of the time gives us glowstone and 2/3 of the time gives us bedrock. And then we're going to have 3 things that happen 1/10 of a second from each other. And each one of those is going to place a random block in the same location. So let's see if we can run this, and let's see what it does. So there's glowstone. Yeah, so we end up with something that kind of flickers. Sort of turns it into bedrock and then switches to glowstone sometimes. Let me change the delay so there's 1 second in between. And instead of just doing it 3 times, since these are all exactly the same, let me just use a loop. And we'll do it, how about 10 times. So 10 times it'll place a random block in the very same place, and it'll be 1 second apart. 1000, 2, 1000, 3, 1000. So we got some glowstone. It's bedrock. Glowstone again. Bedrock. 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 And it's probably done now. So what we should see is roughly 2/3 of the time it is bedrock, and then 1/3 of the time it's glowstone. And that looks like about what's happening here. So now we've used sequencing and randomness to do something pretty cool. And so before watching the next video, I would definitely recommend that you try at least doing this, if not something even cooler. You should try seeing if you can use sequencing to do an animation and randomness to make that animation be different every time. That's one of the reasons why sequencing and randomness work really well together, is you get animations that are never the same. Every time you run it, something different happens. And I just think that's really cool.